Hello, and welcome to Ask Inelia with Inelia Benz, teacher and spiritual catalyst. Her mission is to raise the vibrational frequency of the planet. And over the past month, so many people have written in with questions regarding their fears, how to let go of their fears. Many people are struggling with issues since childhood that they've had so much difficulty letting go of. So many people are writing in with questions about issues that they cannot seem to process. So our focus of today's show will be about managing our fears. And now, here's Ask Inelia. Inelia, today we're going to be talking about fear. So many people sent in questions related to trying to process their fears and having difficulty, things that they're afraid of, issues they can't let go of. And so I thought this would be a wonderful place to start. Our first question is from someone named Kyle. Here's his question. In short, my question is, how do you feel about guns? I try very hard to think about the coming changes as positive and wonderful, but I keep finding fear hiding in me. I process it as best I can and love your methods, but I just keep coming back to lack of food, non-friendly reptilians, people with bad intentions in a lawless society, to name a few. Finally, I bought myself a hunting rifle to be done with it. Is there a way to have something with such potential for evil to be a positive source of comfort? My new concern is, am I inviting these nasty things to come knocking? I'll try to keep it short and stop there. Helane and Inelia, you two are the best. Well, thank you, Kyle. And so, Inelia, the question.
Yeah, I personally do like guns, but I don't have one. Now, let me explain. I'm a crack shot. I never really trained, but as soon as I picked up a gun as a child, well, I didn't formally train, I knew how to use it. It actually got me a little bit of problems in school when there was a career day in school in Nottingham, where I used to go to school in England, and so the army had their show in our tutor room, which is the room where you go in the mornings first thing for the tutor to take your name and say, yeah, you're in school today. And so they had all these different pistols, rifles, machine guns, semi-automatic, automatic, the big machine guns, everything on different tables, and they were recruiting for the army. And I walked in, I looked at the first table, there was a handgun, and I picked it up, and I don't know how it happened, but it fell apart in my hands, right? Like the bullets came out, and I looked at it, and I put it back in, and everything. I thought, oops, I broke the thing, then I put it back, and then I went to the next table, and exactly the same thing happened. I was looking at it, and then, it sounds like, I don't know what my fingers and hands were doing, but it kind of fell apart, and then I put it back together again, and I went into the next one, and then one of the boys was trying to cock a huge, big one of those machine guns that you have to lie down on the floor to hold, and he was trying, and I said, no, you're doing it all wrong, this is how you have to do it, and I went, right, and all of a sudden I look over at the front, and these army guys that were there were just looking at me very seriously. I thought, oh dear, okay, I have to go now, and I left, right? And halfway through the morning, I was called in from the principal's office, and the principal was there, and these two army people were there. One of them had lots of tags on, so he was high up in the army. And they said to me, the principal said, these people want to have a word with you. And one of them said, yes, you've obviously had military training, and we would like to know where. Have you been to Cuba? And I looked at them, and I said, you have no right to be talking to me without my permission or my parents, so I'm going to leave now. Is that all right? And I looked at the principal, and he said, yes, that's right. You have no right to ask her that type of questions. Well, he thought it was something to do with the career day, right?
Yeah.
So he stood between myself and these guys, and I left. But that lack of fear or that familiarity with guns was there at a very deep level, a very physical level. Later on, when I was living in Chile, I had a large farm, and I got myself a handgun because over there, when people have land, you're supposed to protect the people in the land. And there was a situation where a little girl was violated, and I had to go there and get rid of the bloke that had done it. And I carried my gun, right? But you have to realize, and he left and never returned. Now you have to realize that when you're carrying a gun, if you're in a place of fear, it's very unlikely that your gun's going to help you. And also you have to realize that there can't be any negative charge when you if you're going to point that gun at somebody else, right? And also, if you're going to use it for hunting, it's a hunting rifle you have, so that you can feed your family or yourself. Be aware that when you point that gun at an animal, that animal is going to look at you, and you're going to see that animal's soul in those eyes. Are you prepared to shoot them? Now, why don't I have a gun now, even though, the possibilities are there of all sorts of things happening? Because to tell you the truth, I do not engage with people or beings at that level anymore. My warrior side would love to. I would love to have guns and for something to happen and for me to go out and fight and kill and all those type of things that warriors do. This is what warriors are about. It's about war. But I no longer engage at that level. Therefore, if anything like that was to happen, which I very much doubt, but in other places in the world are happening right now, I would not engage at that level. I would prefer to be taken prisoner, to be tortured, or to be anything, or to be starved to death, or to be killed, than engage at that level, the level they want to engage me at. Because what happens if you engage at that level, the level of fear and survival, for you to really go in there and have a look where the program is. You have an ingrained firewall program of victim-aggressor in your field. Go in there, find it, and process all the fear you have about survival, starvation, torture, helplessness, lack, and loss. So make a list, and you can rewind and listen to that list again. Make a list and go each one by one and process all of those fears. And then hold on to your gun and connect with it at an energetic level. Hold it, connect with it at an energetic level. And see, what does it want to be used for? It's made of metals and wood and other materials, plastic perhaps. See, this entity that has been created in a physical form is made of Gaia's materials. Do I really connect with it? Do I really want to use it? Right? And if it does provide comfort for you at some level, keep it until you have processed all of your fears and process the gun as well. Because, it's a matter of engagement, where or how you want to engage with your environment and with others.
Wow, that's incredible. Incredible. Now we'll move on. I have a question from Jessica, okay? And she says, I'm new to the ascension work, and I've begun using the fear processing technique. Does it take a while to begin feeling a vibrational change in energy as you do the processing and clearing? I follow through with the processing, but I have not yet felt a change.
Yeah, it takes a while. You need to do it every single day, and also every time that you feel fear. So learn it, you have it in the text, it's on the website. So learn it, learn how to do it, and then do it as soon as something fearful happens in your life. Do it right away, like teach yourself, train yourself to do it. If not right away, because you're too afraid to remember, then as soon as you remember about it, use it towards that situation every single day. And it might take weeks, it might take months, but it does happen. Your vibration does rise, your awareness does expand. and your situation and your life does change.
Well, again, now here's a similar question. This is from Irina, and it reads like this. Hi, I'm Irina from Romania. My question is what we must do, or my question is about what we must do to release the blockages from our subconscious. I'm referring to the blockages that were made in our childhood and that we apparently forgot about, so that we're not really aware of them.
Well, we can become conscious of them. So you could start by saying, I know I'm aware that I have blockages programmed from childhood, from society, or even from previous lifetimes. I'm making that statement. And then I have to, you can say and sit and say, okay, I want to become aware of one of those blockages. And if you have some sort of idea of what topic it might be related to, so for example, it could be, I don't know, wealth or health or your own expansion of awareness, your own self-worth, or experiencing the new dimension. It could be just about anything. If you have a topic, it'll be easier. But if you don't, just say, I want for one of these blockages to be, for me to become aware of where it is in my field. So is it in my physical body? Is it in my emotional body? Is it in my mental body? Is it in my energy body? And then have a look and see where is it. You have a sense that you have them, so you know that they're there. And then once you find one, you can give it a name, you can give it a color, a taste, and that will be enough for you to be able to process it. And use the same process as the fear processing exercise, but change the name to blockage, right? Okay. So yeah, that would be really helpful.
I mean, do most of these fears and blockages come from childhood?
Yeah, basically childhood from programs? Not just childhood, but our daily living, you know? It's like society, the media, the mass media, and culture, education, religion, they're all about putting programs in your field. Everything's about putting programs in your field so that you agree with them, even if it's an unconscious agreement, and become part of that reality.
Well, this is a question, it's all along the same lines, and this is from Huda. And she writes, I'd like to know if my past life is affecting my presence, because I know something major is affecting my life and making troubles from out of nowhere.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. If you want to really identify a previous lifetime issue rather than just process what's happening inside your field, I always say process what's happening inside your field first. But if you're curious and you want to know where did it come from and what situation it was, have a look and research Brian Weiss's, Dr. Brian Weiss.
Oh, Many Lives, Many Masters.
Exactly. Many Lives, Many Masters. Yeah. That's the first book. And he has several books and also some meditation CDs that you can use if you're curious about your previous lifetimes. I love his work. He's an amazing person. And one of the books that I have on my shelf because they're so wonderful, so full of information that is really reachable for people to have and use.
Now, this is switching gears a little bit, and by the way, thank you for that answer and for about the past lives and the childhood blockages. I want to again. This is a little bit different. This is from Jackie, and she just comes out and asks, "Why did the tragedy at Sandy Hook happen?"
I think we're looking again to see that darkness has a usefulness. Okay, and that's the trick. You're going to find a lot of information out there saying, oh, this was useful because of this, and it's helpful because of that, it shows us this and that, and teaches this. Now, the only reason that it happened, and was, a lot of people, well, some people are saying it was designed to happen just before Christmas, so that it would taint that part of our linear time, December, with fear, and pull us back into the victim aggressor, savior martyr energy, right? So if you get triggered by the innocence of the victims, then you're being pulled into victim-aggressor energy. If you get angry at the person who committed these crimes or whomever was ultimately responsible, a lot of people are blaming the mother, as people normally do. The mother is always to blame. Then you're being pulled into the aggressor part of the victim-aggressor cycle. If you feel tearful and emotional about the teachers that whatever threw themselves in front of the bullets to save the children, you're being pulled into the savior martyr part of the cycle, the paradigm. So have a look and see how is it reacting inside of you and process it, because the only reason it was made was to lower our vibration. That's why it happened. And there's talk that this person was part of the one of those government or cabal programs of mind programs and execution. There's talk about a second shooter fleeing the location that might have been trained. So yeah, there's talk about all sorts of things, but even that brings us back to the victim-aggressor's paradigm. Now, if you realize and look at it without judgment and say, okay, that was and it's being used by the media in every form that you can possibly think of. Every ounce of that paradigm of victim, aggressor, savior, martyr side of it is being used tremendously all over the media and continues to be used, and it will probably be used for years to come. Now, as many children or more children have been killed in Afghanistan, I think, and the other Middle Eastern countries by American drones and by American soldiers. Innocent children's and schools being blown up. Do we hear about it? No, we don't, because it doesn't serve our programming of the victim-aggressor, right? It doesn't serve. It's like, oops, maybe we should stop this,
Yeah.
So it doesn't serve, and that's how it doesn't serve the darkness, the keeping that paradigm going. People die, more children die of starvation every day than that they died on that day out of bullets. And that's not talked about. Children die out of being vaccinated every day around the planet. More children die from vaccinations every day than that's being mentioned about this situation. So let's have a look here and see, well, where's our focus and why are we engaging at a victim-aggressor level? And no, it has no usefulness with regards to light.
It's interesting, because I heard somebody in there trying to be comforting about the situation. They said, well, look at the children that lived. Their parents will appreciate them. They won't be saying, listen, Johnny, I'm washing the dishes, don't bother me now. Then now that mother, now that father, now that family will really embrace and appreciate their children. And so that would be like what you were saying before, or even in your answer to a question that we talked about previously, about looking for the light in the dark.
Yeah, the darkness will always tell you it's useful, right? That's the excuse it has to keep hold of it inside of you to stay there. It will tell you it's useful. It teaches you stuff. It makes you appreciate something else.
Yeah.
It's here to help. And all those things are lies. Darkness, all it does is pull you down, pull your vibration down. It pulls you back into fear, that's all.
Wow, great answer, and thank you so much. Here's our next question. And this is from Nina from Sweden. Inelia, I have a question for you. I think that my biggest thing to do right now is to transform my fears. I've worked with that for many years now, and I feel more and more free, and it's so great. My fears often seem to come from previous lifetimes. I can see and feel specific time, an epic situation which is linked with the deep fear. But how is it for you? Do you feel fears? I wonder because you haven't been here before. Do you just have fears from this lifetime?
So when you look at it, you infuse it with energy and light so that it can expand and become less dense and goes back to its natural state, which is light love. So where it came from, what it's called, or if it's this lifetime, last time, or your body's, that is irrelevant. For me personally, my fears are very physically based. My body has been around for many lifetimes, and it does have fears. For example, it had a fear of spiders. It has fears. It had a fear of snakes, and I didn't even know about that one. Because I used to love snakes. And one day we went to visit some friends, and they brought out a snake, and I went, "Whoa, a snake!" And I went to touch it, and my body went, "Whoa!" And she didn't want to get close. She really did not want to touch that snake, and I thought, "Whoa, that's heavy stuff." So if it's your physical body's fear, whether from this lifetime or another one, it's good to identify that it came from your body and it came from a different lifetime so that you can help your body process it. You do the fear processing exercise and help your body use the fear processing exercise to dissolve that fear back into oneness, back into light love. And then infuse that energy with light love and your physical body too. Now, if it's this lifetime, the same thing. And if it's your own, because your fears might be independent from this lifetime, it might be from previous lifetimes. Again, irrelevant, but good for curiosity purposes. However, you can identify that it's not your physical body that's afraid, but you, and then you can process that fear yourself. So that would be the two. Now, my fears, what am I afraid of in this lifetime? There isn't really much myself as a soul construct that would be there. There isn't really anything that there are no fears, but at a physical level there are a lot of fears, and they are ingrained, they're programmed in, and they're about survival, about not being hurt, about not experiencing loss, not experiencing pain. I always say I would be a terrible person to be captured and tortured because I would spill the beans immediately because I can't stand pain, right? Wow. So basically, yeah, my physical body is afraid of those things. And whenever I identify one of those fears, I go in and process it immediately.
Yeah, well, Inelia, who could stand pain? I don't know. But okay, I mean, that's I'm going to move along because we have quite a few questions on the topic of fear. And this one is rather fascinating. This is from Samantha. And she says, my question relates to a paradox that has me constantly torn down the middle. Although I understand and actively participate with co-consciously creating my new reality, I am also gut sure that it's a bad idea to ignore the Darklords as they systematically roll out their New World Order plan for domination. I believe that they are the masters of manifestation and the use of creative energy, hence their many methods of mind control and human mass energy harassing that which we witness in events like 9/11 or the Olympics or the blood ritual opening ceremony. Oh, she must be referring to the Olympics. I believe they also have infiltrated the New Age movement and that they seek to convince us who are awakening to do nothing while we sit here and think happy. I do not understand the necessity of doing just that, but I also feel the dark side is creeping over us while we all have our eyes closed. Even Gandhi knew that there were times when a fight was our duty. Please address this paradox. Blessings and thanks.
Okay, so you're still in the victim-aggressor paradigm, and I would look at it from that perspective. If you look at these individuals, not as dark overlords, but just, for example, green, or pink or red or blue, and the other side is the other color. So for example, okay, the dark overlords are the pink overlords, and the light workers are the green overlords, right? So you have two different colors. Now everything, the entire perspective changes, right? Because the program of the darkness being powerful over others and things just vanishes. Now the change really has to be from inside. You still have that internalized victim aggressor, push them away or fight them, seeing them as externals. They are our creation. Now, we as a collective have created these individuals, and we have allowed them to run the planet because we wanted to have a certain experience. The only thing that's changed is that now we're becoming conscious of the fact that we have created them and that we create our reality here on the planet. That's the only difference. We still created. We still have the same power, but it's just different. Now, when I have had to face them, yeah, they come at me with everything they can, guns and everything else, right? But I don't engage at that level. I refuse to engage at that level. So they can't touch me at that level. If they want to engage, they have to engage at my level or at my vibration, the way I choose to engage, which is basically source energy, light love. Now, if you bring light into a dark room, where does the darkness go, right?
Yeah.
It's not there anymore,
right?
So, yeah, it's basically that way. Within you, there is darkness that you are pushing away and you're refusing to engage with at any level. So you're doing nothing. So I would say, have a look at your inner darkness. Face your inner darkness and engage with it from a place of light and tell it, you know what? You've got to leave now. Because the new paradigm, the new reality we're creating, there's no place for you here. So thank you and goodbye.
It's interesting, Inelia. I mean, that was a good question. I mean, I was curious about that myself. I see on Facebook a lot of people that are spiritual people, but they're posting a lot of things that they believe are helpful because they're informing us, letting us know about some of the atrocities that are being afflicted upon us. And yet it's not comfortable to look at it, and it definitely lowers your vibration when you're hearing about it, and yet they still do feel a need to inform and to let you know, look at what HAARP has done, look at these new chemtrails that are here in this area, look at look at this problem with the government, and this politician did that. I mean, it's too many to even name. So,
well, there's two things there, you know. One of them is look at, and that's how do you look? And when you mention, then it lowers your vibration. If that's happening, it's because you haven't processed it yet. You've been sucked into the victim-aggressor cycle through looking. So if that happens, process your own reaction to it, your own emotional charge around it. That's the first thing you can do. By doing that, you disempower that cycle. You disempower those people that are creating those things. Secondly, if you're really active, you want to do something active, and I do calls to actions very often in my website. I have a newsletter, and one of the primary reasons to have a newsletter is to do calls to action.
Right.
And if some of those calls to action means painting a banner and going to your local government offices and telling them, I do not agree, do it.
Okay, look,
just sit there. If you're feeling from inwardly that you need to do, right? You don't have to sit quietly and do nothing just because somebody else tells you to. You always have to follow your own inner knowing and your own sovereignty. However, when you do from a place of non-judgment, but firm acknowledgement of what you want in this reality. Okay? So there's a difference. I do not agree with chemtrails. I do not agree with war. I do not agree with power over others. Myself, Inelia Benz, doesn't agree with those things. Right? And I clearly state them continuously. I do not agree with that. And I refuse to have them inside my own field. That's the second part. Whenever one of those enters my field, I process it immediately because I do not agree with them existing inside my field. And this, person by person, each individual, we just need 10% of the population of the planet. That's all. 10%. And we shift the entire thing over. That's all we need. 10% people knowing that this is how it works.
So, Inelia, no, I hear what you're saying. I saw on your wall when you talked about Prop 37 and the vote about labeling what is the GMOs in food. So I see what you're saying about the call to action. Is there going to be a time, in other words, and I don't necessarily, I just seem to open up a Facebook page. What hurts me the most, I see some bloody animal, some hurt, tortured animal, and somebody is trying to be helpful. They say, stop the mistreatment of animals. But when I see that picture, and I hold it in my mind, I am sad. I'm a little heartbroken. So you're saying, how do you quickly process that?
Well, I would look at it and say, look at that animal, the picture of that animal that you're thinking of, and say to that animal, I no longer agree with you being a victim in my planet. The animal. You're no longer to be a victim in this planet. You're a divine, eternal being. If you want to continue being a victim, you have to move on to another planet. But don't do it in this planet anymore, right? And you have a choice to come back and be in this planet as a fully empowered being. Yeah, cat or dog or whatever animal, right?
Yeah.
And then the anger that you feel for whomever did that.
Yeah.
The same thing. I no longer agree with you being an aggressor in this planet, in my reality. So you are to move on, or you can also realize that you can step away from being in the aggressor victim cycle and be empowered. You don't have to do this anymore. And if you decide not to, then you're welcome to stay here in my reality. Do you see the difference in shift?
Yes, and actually I feel better when, especially saying that to the aggressor, especially saying that to what would be the perpetrator. Yeah.
And that's also normal because we deem that to be more useful perhaps, or we can be more aggressive about it. But with the victim, it's the same thing. If there were no beings on the planet that agreed to be victims, no aggressors could do anything here. Do you see?
Yeah.
So you have to be powerful. And also when you do that to a victim, you empower them. You no longer agree with their victimhood. Sometimes a child or a being or an animal gets stuck on the being a victim because everybody who looks at them thinks, oh, poor victim. So that energy of victimhood gets empowered and grows inside that child or being or person, and they can't get away from it because everybody's projecting victim onto them. Now, it's well known, or I've seen it in my own life, when somebody steps up to a victim and says, you're not a victim, you can change this, you're a very powerful person, and I'm going to show you how. That whole thing shifts, the person moves away from victimhood and everything. Their life completely changes because you're no longer agreeing that they're a victim. You're no longer labeling them, and they no longer have to react or behave from that energy.
Yeah. So you'll either help them move along or they'll move away from you. Because there are some people that chronically complain in a victim role, and they seem to move away from me because I don't look at them that way. And so they seem to move along. Yeah, so that's interesting. Now, Inelia, we have time for one last question, and this is regarding fear. And I thank you so much. This has been packed with information, terrific information. So here it is. This is from Eugenia. My greatest wish is to be in love and peace and radiate love and sharing. But my conditioning is so strong and aggressive and negative reactions occur to the most minute events. And this interaction destroys my intention to love and have peace. I am aware that I have accepted the monster inside of me, and I give it no permission. I have it verbally offending, acting out on my loved ones. Inelia, please advise me.
Okay. So one of the things that I see is that you have your shadow self well ingrained and settled in your field. By trying to suppress your shadow self, you make it stronger. So what you need to do is do the fear processing exercise on it and allow it to express and grow in everything with shadow self instead of the word fear. Use my dark side or shadow self. And do this process for the next 21 days. It takes about 21 days to change and shift a program and release it, infuse it with light love and allow it to go free. There's no place for your shadow self in the new paradigm, that's for sure. Now, another thing that I would suggest you do, a couple more things, is meditate every single day for 2 hours, not 2 hours, for 20 minutes. Right? I would say 2 hours, but if you can do 2 hours, that would be fantastic. But at least 20 minutes. If you can, do an hour. If you don't know how to meditate, there's loads of websites out there. Just Google meditation, how to meditate. Do one of those. I suggest anything that uses the breath method or the one where you have a candle in front of you. Any of those will do. Now, the other thing would be for you to, so we had diet. The physical body, sometimes when we react that way aggressively, it can be a toxin in our physical body. Often it's refined white sugar has that reaction in us. So have a look and see how much refined white sugar you have in your diet, and if you can, eliminate it. Replace it with honey, replace it with unrefined cane sugar, change, don't use any artificial sweeteners. Use savia. I know there's a plant that you can use. Try different ones. Replace refined white sugar with other things. And also eliminate from your diet any foods that contains artificial colors. This is really important, especially with the reds and orange and yellows. They can have a very deep reaction in our physical bodies and our energy fields that makes us aggressive. So have a look and see if you can eliminate any of those from your diet and do that. Take it slow and do these exercises, and I can assure you that in 21 days you won't know yourself. It's like you're going to be more able to dictate or react the way you want. You'll be able to respond rather than react to every situation. And let us know how you get on.
Well, that was interesting. I never thought of that with the food the coloring in food.
Yeah.
Very. Well, Inelia, thank you so much. On a closing note regarding fear, our topic of the day, do you have a last-minute message for our listeners?
Yeah, make sure that when you do the fear processing exercise that's on my website, you really do it many, many times. One time will help, but it won't really shift things at a deep level, or not everything. But if you do it every single day, like a couple of times a day for the next 21 days, it will really shift things, deprogram the programs that are fearful inside of you, and also allow you and give you space to program new habits and forms of being that are extremely helpful.
Thank you. And thank you again for another wonderful episode of Ask Inelia. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.